Hello and welcome to today's video. My name's Haley. If you're new to this channel, I basically share my insights and downloads for the most part about this beautiful piece of work by Richard Rudd. Today we're going to be going over the 8th gene key within this series. There is 64 gene keys and each key is divided into 3 parts. Today's video will be about the shadow state of mediocrity. Eventually we'll get into the gift style in the next video, which is style, and the Siddhi of Exquisiteness. And the name of this 8th gene key is diamond of the self. So mediocrity, beyond the comfort zone, is what Richard Rudd titles this chapter. When you look at the world in which we live today, especially the Western world, it's actually quite extraordinary how many people live such similar lives. Right? There's this fear of being different. If you drop out of college, if you don't go to college, if you don't have a 9-to-5, if you don't have this goal to create, the perfect family with the white picket fence, what will other people think of you? Therefore, you look around and most people do mold to this kind of very basic lifestyle setup. It's actually remarkable how many people have such similar lives. And this arises out of the fear of being different. It's much easier to maintain a frequency of mediocrity, of sameness, than to carve your own path and be authentic. But he says that this prevents the individual from exploring the real adventure of life, right? If you're all on the same level, the same playing field, there's no room for variation or zest. Therefore, you're actually canceling out this real adventure of life. And isn't that tragic? So he says here that the true nature of individuality is rebellion. And when he says this, he's referring to rebellion of being mediocre, of doing things the way that they're supposed to be done, as we're programmed from a very young age, right? From a very young age, it's you go to school, you get a job, you find a babe, you get married, you have some kids, you own a house, you work to pay off the house, eventually you retire, and then you enjoy your life while you're old and stressed out, and then you die. And so rebellion, the true nature of individuality is rebellion means I go against this norm, I choose to carve my own path, go against what society is attempting to program me into, and I'm going into territory that's uncharted and therefore unsafe. Essentially, I'm going into the unknown. I like this part here. He says that most people don't do this, right? Most people don't rebel. They stay in the safe zone. Oh, well, I know it's safe because, my cousin Jenny also went to college, got a 9-to-5, married a guy, had some kids, had a house. And for eons and eons, all of my relatives have been doing this, so I know it's safe. But he says here that this is an illusion of security. Taking the path that everyone else is taking is an illusion of security. Because what your cousin Jenny may be presenting may not be how it actually feels on the inside. Maybe she does have the 9-to-5 career that she desires, and she does have the family that she always thought she wanted, but as we know, sometimes you achieve things and you realize, this isn't actually what I wanted, or it didn't bring about the feeling of satisfaction or success that I thought it was. So this illusion of security, this illusion of safety that is provided through taking the safe route, the mediocre route, is in fact not real. He says that life sometimes will force you to grow through a kind of crisis or death, and you come to experience your true nature outside the borders of this comfort zone. And that piqued my interest because for me, I thought of, oh yes, I'm familiar with being pushed out of my comfort zone many times, but one of the bigger ones was when I was trying to heal from the eating disorder and quit modeling. You know, obviously I had to exit my comfort zone in the sense that I had to find a new job. I had to start thinking of other ways of being, presenting myself, going about the way in the world. And so because I was pushed outside of my comfort zone, I was forced to grow into new levels that I had never before explored. And yeah, this naturally forces one to grow. And so the interesting part about this to me is the individual can wait for a crisis to strike. You know, for instance, me, I waited for the eating disorder to get so bad that I was forced to do something about it. Otherwise, I was literally going to wither away. Or the individual can proactively recognize that they need to go into the unknown. They need to take the risk, for lack of better words, or choose the path that is rebellious in order to grow, in order to know more of themselves, and therefore actually prevents crisis or death from striking in order to induce that growth. Because evolution, life wants you to grow. And if you, of your own free will, don't choose growth constantly on a daily basis with your smaller decisions, then yeah, life will be forced to throw you a big fish, a crisis, a death, something that will make you face yourself and exit the comfort zone. Because to stay in the comfort zone is to stay stagnant. Things that stay stagnant die, right? Just envision, I think I've used this analogy before, of water. If you look at water, a puddle, for instance, stagnant water will start to create kind of a moldy grossness to it. Weird bugs will be attracted. It looks like death. Whereas moving water, flowing water, there's an energy, there's a life to it. Nothing kind of gross or decaying can be attracted to or grow there because it's always fluid in motion. All of this to say, you either invite in your own growth by taking the risk, exiting the comfort zone, going into the unknown, being rebellious, or you wait for life to strike in the form of crisis or death, which will also force you to move. So the first contemplation of this video within this first or eighth gene key, of mediocrity being, where can I get out of my comfort zone? And this doesn't have to be something huge, right? It doesn't have to be a career change. It could be something literally as simple as, oh, usually I wake up every morning at 7:30, and then by 7:45 I'm out of the house on my way to coffee. At my favorite coffee spot, I order the same thing, cappuccino extra foam, and I always choose the same spot in the cafe unless my favorite spot's taken. I go right next to it. How about today, I take the risk, I get out of my comfort zone of my usual coffee routine, and instead I drive the other way, and I allow my intuition to lead me into a new cafe where instead of ordering coffee, I get matcha. Obviously, I'm forced to sit somewhere new since I've never been here. And say I'm feeling a little extra risky, let me try to also talk to at least one new person in this cafe. That right there is proactively seeking discomfort, going into the unknown. And it's little, but you're also showcasing to yourself and to universe, love, God, whatever you want to call that thing inside of you and all around you, that you are seeking growth. Therefore, growth doesn't need to seek you in the form of crisis or death. So once again, in what ways, even very small, like going from coffee to matcha, can I step into a zone that makes me uncomfortable or something that I am currently unfamiliar with? And I'll just tell you guys one more quick example. I used to do this in New York. It's very easy to walk the exact same way home from whether it's the library to home. So I used to do this thing where I would consciously walk away. I've never walked before because New York's on a grid, right? So it's very predictable. And so instead of taking 5th Avenue all the way from 11th to 32nd, I would say, let me walk on, 7th Avenue. And then when I get from 11th to 14th, turn, and now I'm on 6th Avenue, and then I walk the way to 32nd. Simple as that, just inviting in newness into your environment, something you usually don't do. Because in order to go somewhere you've never gone or do something you've never done, it forces you, quite literally, to become more aware. And in inducing this awareness, you also evolve as a being, which is very beautiful. So Richard Rudd loves to talk about education, which I think is really bold and beautiful of him. He mentions here again that in the Western world, individuality is imprinted very early in life. And he talks about how the modern education kind of dulls individuality, right? We're all forced to go to the same classroom, achieve the same grade, and hopefully get into the same colleges to work the same boring 9-to-5 jobs. Most educational systems encourage sameness rather than differences because difference threatens the system itself. The system would not operate as smoothly, as conveniently, be as easy if everyone were different. Because what if all the kids show up and every single kid is at a different learning level, every single kid has a different passion and hobby? Now all of a sudden you need a lot more teachers, a lot more energy, a lot more attention, a lot more resources to adapt to every single child. Whereas if I just blanket it, oh, you all need to be the same, achieve the same, now my job as a government or a school becomes much easier. But ironically enough, it's in trying to take this shortcut to make it more efficient now that bites us back in the butt later when we have a bunch of children that grow into adults that don't know who they are because it was masked through mediocrity early on in school. Difference threatens the system. If we allowed children to show up as their true selves with their true hobbies at school, the current system as we have it would not work because we wouldn't have the teachers to adequately cater to all the different needs of the children. And then we'd have to rebuild a new system, God forbid that. That was a joke, by the way, if you didn't get that. We need to rebuild a new system is what I'm trying to hint at. He talks about how we have to regurgitate memorized information with little to no scope for spontaneous innovation. This is exactly what the modern day school system is missing, right? We don't need to memorize all these BS facts that really don't apply to the individual. Instead, we need to invite spontaneous innovation, urge the children to explore what is in their heart space and what they would like to express in the moment, what motivates them in the moment, what gives them energy that they can use to be of service to the all. By setting up a system where sameness is the rule, we have successfully turned individuals into outsiders and reactionaries. We've essentially made a bunch of reactive egos. And that turns into traumatized adults. Adults that had their true hearts dulled as a child, so now they're forced to show up in very odd, perverted ways as adults. And when I say perverted, I mean mutated, I guess. They're forced to express themselves in a way that's not natural. So then he poses the question, so what kind of education should a child have? Okay, well, we've kind of already danced around this one with spontaneous innovation, one that invites the child to explore their own heart-centered passions. He says the main scope of this 8th gene key is posed in this question: is formal education really needed at all? That's a big question. I'm sure that could open up a huge can of worms globally. And so I invite you to also contemplate that question. Is real education actually needed at all? This is a very charged question, lots of opinions I'm sure to circulate. I would love to hear your opinion down below in the comments. I personally feel that it's not, and I have my reasons for that. I'm assuming Richard Rudd feels this way as well. I guess we'll see as we continue on through this chapter. Is formal education really needed at all? He notes how some children respond well to this formal education that we currently have and some don't. He says if you are in hopes to find your gifts and unlock your genius, you need to unlearn this 8th shadow of mediocrity, meaning you have to step out of the comfort zone, get into the unknown, and stop moving like a robot, like an NPC. You need to actually turn on your prefrontal cortex and make decisions that go against the current grain. Again, even if it's as simple as I usually write with green pens, but today I'm going to consciously choose to write with, let's see what other color pens I have in here. Dark green pens. Even something as simple as that. Again, it takes awareness and effort to choose something new. It takes awareness and effort to grow into a new level of yourself, even if it is as simple as using a different colored pen. And this also translates to the bigger things in life, right? If I can easily start to make small decisions that are different, I'll naturally start to build that muscle and be able to one day maybe dramatically shift careers in a moment. So this kind of muscle of change is something that you work at. And it needs to be worked at if you are to unlock your gifts and your genius. And I like how he says unlock here, because it implies that all of your gifts, all of your talents are already in here, just waiting for enough evolution, enough of that muscle memory to turn the key and allow them to flourish. It implies that your gifts are not something to be discovered, but rather uncovered. Which I don't know about you, but that makes me feel very relieved and peaceful. So my purpose, my gifts aren't something that I have to go figure out and find. And no, it's something I have to personally keep taking the risk, keep stepping into the unknown, and they will be revealed to me because they are inside of me. There just needs to be an amplitude of energy in order to unlock them. So once again, emphasis on the fact that contemplating where you can step into the unknown is extremely important to cultivate the energy you need to unlock your gifts, your talents, and your genius. One of the deep fears emerging from this 8th gene key is the fear of success. I'm not scared of success. No, I want to be successful. That's why I have the 9 to 5. That's why I went to college. No, I want to be successful, Richard Rudd. That's BS. Oh, really? Well, if there's no fear of success, then you should easily and effortlessly be able to go into the unknown, take the risk, jump off the ledge. There is a fear of success. There is a fear of straying away from the norm, because what if it's not accepted? Therefore, what if I get rejected? Therefore, what if I lose any ability to climb the ranks, to attain power or energy or admiration or money or whatever it is? You compromise your dreams not because you fear you will fail, but because you know that to succeed, you compromise your dreams not because you fear you will fail, but because you know that to succeed, you will have to rebel against the whole of society and its expectations. So I compromise what I actually want to do, where I actually want to go, where I actually want to step into, because I'm scared to rebel against society. I'm scared to say, you know what, no, this school system doesn't work for me, actually. You know, I actually learn better when my hands are in the dirt, not when I'm reading about dirt and how plants grow in dirt. I'm scared to disappoint society. And this is why I compromise my dreams. This is what he's saying here. You fear what you might become because you do not know who you are. Wow, isn't that a banger of a line? You fear what you might become because you do not know who you are. I don't actually know what gifts hide in here, what talents hide in here, what my purpose is, or what powers are in here. All I know is that when I cultivate enough energy, I step into the unknown enough, they will become unlocked. But what if I unlock it and it's too big, or I don't like what it is? It's unpredictable, and that's why we have this fear of stepping into our power, because we don't even know what's in there. And here's the craziest part is, obviously, if I sit here and contemplate with you all about the gifts inside of here that I have not yet discovered, okay, maybe I don't know what they are, but I can bet you they're pretty nice. And I think it's just the awareness of bringing this to the prefrontal cortex that starts to delete the fear. And by that, I mean, I can look back even a year ago. I didn't know I had this gift of singing in me. Now I do. As it was flourishing, it was a little weird and scary. But now I'm like, oh, this is pretty awesome. And I can continue to evolve this gift now. So just like that, I can look back and see how that came into fruition. I can look forward and be like, you know what? I don't know what other presents are in here, in this little heart space of mine. But I do know that one day a future me will look back on this version of me and be like, oh, wow, remember when she didn't know that she had this gift of, or this purpose of whatever in her heart? And now I can look back and see it flourish and see how beautiful it is. So sometimes counting blessings, for lack of better words, or gifts that have already come into manifestation and realizing just how beautiful they are can help you cultivate the courageousness you need to keep stepping into the unknown, to keep unlocking gifts, keep unlocking purpose within yourself. Because even though I don't know who I am, what I have left to unveil, I do know that it's going to be good. The path less traveled leads to treasure. So this shadow, he says, gives you a recognizable stereotype, right? If you're mediocre, if you have the 9 to 5, the picket fence house, the 2 kids, the husband, it feels predictable, it feels safe. There's an illusion of security once again. Oh, I know who I am. I'm a mother, I'm a neighbor, I'm a doctor, whatever it is. Oh, I know who I am. Now I feel safe. It's when you start to step into the unknown that you feel you're losing yourself, because you're losing the construct, this illusory construct of who you think you are. And now you're forced to discover who you actually are. So this is important to recognize. The moment you start to step out of mediocrity, you start to rebel against the system, you start to lose the illusion of security. But remember, wake up and realize that it was always an illusion. You were never actually secure. Your image and who you thought you were never actually who you were. And the only way to find out who you are is to keep continuously stepping into the now, the unknown, the risk, the newness, utilizing your awareness to choose differently. And again, I think knowledge is power means now that I know this, now that I know it's okay to not be mediocre, I somehow have a little bit more energy and power behind this risk that I'm about to take. Because I have the awareness, the gnosis, that every time I take a risk, a little bit of more of who I am, the gifts I have, reveal themselves. And he says here, as you start to do this, as you start to step into the unknown, take the risk, everyone else is going to start to look at you with both fear and awe. Wow. What she's doing is kind of out of pocket. It's awe-invoking, right? But it's also like, whoa, I don't know about that. It's both fear and awe. And I think that's such a beautiful visual, because it's almost as if it's two sides of the same coin. Taking the risk is full of wonder, but also very scary. I like the way that sounds, fear and awe together. They're so intertwined, you can't actually separate the two. If you weren't mediocre, you would invite fear and awe from those around you, which is a great level of energy to also inspire others to change, to keep changing, I should say, to keep evolving. Mediocrity is defined by others rather than by yourself. It has two main functions. It keeps you from thinking outside of the box, he says. And mediocrity also serves the machinery of society rather than evolution. Once again, mediocrity keeps stagnicity, keeps things the same, keeps evolution from moving forward. So you start to become a background player, he says, rather than a major player in life. But you're not put on this earth, and as cheesy as it sounds, you're not put on this earth to be a background player, to be an NPC, to be a robot. You are here to experience. Yes, that's so cheesy. But if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I say the cheese is true, because it is. All of the cheese is true. All the cliches are true. You are here to be a major player. You're here to experience. And Richard Rudd potently reminds us of that within this first portion of this 8th shadow. So I have quite a bit more notes. I like to take notes. We're only right here in this chapter so far. So stay tuned for part 2 of this shadow state video, which I will post tomorrow. And I'll go over the rest of this 8th shadow and get into the repressive and the reactive natures of mediocrity before we move into the gift frequency. I'll see you guys next time. Love and aloha. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in with me for this Gene Keys episode. I also just wanted to come on here and start promoting my one-to-one coaching that I offer to women and girls ages 16 to 35. If you've followed me on Instagram for a while, you might be a little bit familiar with my story. I was a model in New York City for 5 years, and in that time frame, I did quite some damage. I developed a really severe eating disorder, body dysmorphia, chronic anxiety. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even go out to dinner without thinking about how much calories, how much I'd have to overwork out in order to compensate for what I was eating. All of those issues led to quite a depression and turned into PCOS, and I also lost my menstrual cycle for over 5 years. All of this amalgamation of issues led me to soon realize that something needed to change. I went through much work. Many people helped me to get to where I am now, and I'm so thrilled to say I'm living such a more abundant life, and I don't feel zapped and drained and fear of judgment anymore like I used to. I would love to offer what I've learned through my own embodied experience, the meditative techniques that have gravitated toward me, and the own verified games that I've made up and curated to help you walk home to more of you and who you really are, so that all of these things can stop draining your energy. You know, all the constant comparison to others and to your people on Instagram, all the over-analysis about working out and what you're eating or what you look like. All of these things are not what life's about, as cheesy as it sounds. And I would love to help you come into more unity with you if you struggle with any of these things and you're a woman or girl between the ages of 16 and 35. So feel free to reach out to me if one-on-one coaching sounds resonant. You can feel free to DM me through Instagram or contact me via email, both of which will be left below in the description box. So much love and aloha to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.